Hey everyone, it's Sarah, the elder millennial.
And this is Bill, the infant boomer. Welcome to Strengths on Fire, the podcast for strengths enthusiasts who want to have fun while leveling up.
Get ready for a mix of powerful insights, unexpected stories, and plenty of laughs along the way. Hey Bill, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Sarah, let's light it up!
Hello, Mr. Bill Dippel. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, Sarah. You just came back from New York, didn't you?
I did. I was in New York for a wedding, and it was so lovely. It was seriously one of the best weddings I've ever been to because these two people are so in love. You know, when you go to a wedding, people are like madly in love. It's just so good. And that's what it was. It was really beautiful. And I was sobbing, like forgot Kleenexes. And my friend who got married, she's so wonderful. She's been a friend since college. She suffered a lot of loss in her life. And there was this moment where she says, I'm going to read this letter. And I look at my husband. He said, you're fucked. Because he knew that I was just going to be crying. I was already crying. And when she says this, I look at him. He's like, you're done for.
You're done. You're done.
You're going to have to leave and go fix your face, lady.
It's over. I thought I was the weeper in the group, Sarah. Now I love that
I was destroyed, but in the best way. You know, it was just like so. Oh my
Isn't
gosh!
it
Anyway,
amazing watching great friends come together and then, get better at what they do? I'm a developer, so for me, it just fuels me, and I just live for it. So.
Well, and my friend who got married is so beautiful and so smart and so successful and has everything going for her. And she really struggled like finding a partner in New York City. And I was always like, what is wrong with these men? Like, I want to marry her. She's incredible. And so for her to have found someone who is just so perfect, and they talked about, we're all in our like later 30s, and they're talking about like how they waited for each other and it ended up being so right. I was like, oh my God, it's so beautiful.
So good. So good.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And I just got to connect with other friends and stuff. So it was a wonderful time.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad you made the trip.
Speaking of being in my late 30s.
Yes.
Bill, I have a question for you.
Oh, yes. I am ready.
If you could live at one age for the rest of your life, what age would you live at and why?
One age for the rest of my life. And what would it be? But now I can't come back. Like we've asked this question a little bit where we only go for a week and come back or something along that.
Yeah,
now I'm living?
No,
I'm there.
No. Not like an age in time. Like would you be 38?
Oh,
would you
my
be 40?
Birthday, like an age. Oh.
Yeah. Think about like you turn into a vampire, and like what age would you turn into the vampire where you're just that age forever?
Yeah. I feel that classic draw that, man, if I only knew at 20 to 25 what I know now, how much better I would be. Like how I could do so, be confident, be ready to do what I needed, know the path, have some ideas, and have that vitality. And I still feel great, and I play golf, as you know, all the time. And I don't think I'm missing those parts, but man, to be young again and to know what I know would just be amazing, I think. So, and honestly, I'm really happy right now. I really am. I'm in a good place. I'm doing that, but to take that knowledge and to go back to, let's just say, 25, know what the paths were and where I could go and how I could do it. I think that would be really amazing. I think that would be great.
25. That's your answer.
I'm going to say 25. I was coming back. I'd moved away. I'd lived in Los Angeles. So our hearts go out. I lived in some of the communities. Hearts go out to the Los Angeles communities right now. I did live in some of those areas and really loved that time in LA. I know a lot of people say, oh, the traffic and everything else. For me, living in LA, the people, the weather, the friends I met, was all fantastic. And that was when I was in that early 20s, right? I left high school and just left and went and did it. So I loved it. And I loved it. And to be able to recapture that and still come back maybe to where I am now, or maybe
Yeah.
not, if I knew what the path was and I could turn it into something else. I think that my early 20s was just such a time ripe with, man, you could grab so many fruits off of the trees and so live so many different ways. So that's for me. How about you? What would you do?
Man, I think it's tempting to say your 20s, because you're young. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I was so stupid. And I guess if you're living,
Well,
like you would get,
I just took
you
the
would,
stupid out of it, right? I said,
I
wait,
just
I don't
guess
get to take the knowledge? Well, now.
no, I don't know. I guess, I mean, the rules, to these questions are all loosey-goosey, but in my
Yeah.
mind, it's like, I don't know if I had to live at any age, I think I would pick closer to 30.
Mm.
Like you still are young, your body still works, but you got a little bit of knowledge under your belt and like life
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Um, I think I would do that. Like you
It's
feel
smart.
old, but you're so young.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I'm
smart. No,
I'm I'm
it's
looking like over the hill at 40 right now. So
Mhm.
like 30 looks like, oh, she was so cute. Look at
Well,
she's out there so fun.
I would also ask, is our reference to our past legitimate? Right? Do I really want 25
Mm,
or do I really want 32? Because
right.
am I warped on time? Am I warped on what I was doing at those times? I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
accurate any of that is. I just
I
remember
know.
really feeling, and like you said, I was really dumb. And there were a lot of times I felt lost. Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? But I'll figure it out. And now that I have most of that figured out, to go back and do it again, oh man, just crazy
Mm-hmm.
time. I think it would be fantastic. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The hard thing about these questions is they're supposed to be fun, but then it's like so easy to be like, take it too seriously and be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, what are the parameters? What are the rules of this universe? And it's like, no, it's not that deep,
I
as Cody
know.
Rigsby
I
would say.
well, I don't know. Well, it would change my answer though. If I couldn't take the knowledge back, I would not go back to my early 20s.
Yeah.
Stupid, stepping
Mm-hmm.
on stuff, not figure. That was not like you. I would have taken after 30. I
Mm-hmm.
have some ideas. I know where I'm at. Yeah. So it would change. I'm just saying it would change that part of it. Maybe not
Yeah.
crazy time wise, but yeah, it would change it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Well,
I don't think knowledge is always power. I mean, usually it is, but one thing that I loved about my stupidity at a young age was the ability to just really enjoy a tanning bed.
oh,
Like, I'm sorry, but when you
great.
live in a very cold place and you're 16 and you're like, I'm just gonna go take a nap in a really warm tanning bed for 20 minutes, like that felt so good. And
Oh
like
my
it
gosh.
was bliss. And now today, like never could I ever, but I'm really glad I got to enjoy that.
Wow.
what was the cold
Alyssa,
place? What was the cold place, Alyssa?
I mean, I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Lincoln.
she sure
Uh-huh.
did. She
Wow.
sure
Lincoln,
did.
Nebraska, which is I spent 21 years of my life there. And, I usually say to people with Nebraska, if you haven't been, don't go. I don't
Don't
know
go.
these people, but
If
Nebraska,
you have someone to visit,
yeah,
go.
there you
If you
go.
don't have someone to visit, not
That's
necessary.
Interesting.
those spots. But yeah, Nebraska, it's not for everyone, but it is
No.
for a lot of people. But yeah, now I live in Denver, Colorado, and it's cold here too, but almost 300 days of sunshine a year. So I feel like you get a little bit of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Well, I am just delighted to have Alyssa Thelen. Did I say that right?
Close.
Thelen?
Yes, you got it. Second try.
Thelen. Yeah. Of course, the first one I mess up. Okay. But Alyssa is with us today, and I am so excited because even though, if you're listening, you're like, oh, Alyssa, she is from Lincoln. And we know Sarah lives in Lincoln. They must have like grew up together or knew each other. You would be wrong. We did not know each other when we lived in this city. We got introduced through like a friend of a friend a couple years ago.
Yeah, a couple years now.
And they said, you all have so much in common. You should really connect. So we connected, and we were so thrilled and I think nervous because we have so much in common. It was like the Matrix glitched and just copied us in different worlds, but like the same life. And so the fact that Alyssa is on here talking about the glory of the ignorance of the tanning bed, I just want to say yes, ditto. And all day I think I'll probably just be saying, Ditto what she said. Yes.
Ditto. Perfect. And I will tell everyone, for our listeners, not our watchers, it's like I'm looking at a split mirror this morning. I see two engaging, wonderful, super positive, high energy, right? Great hair day. But again, you would think you guys grew up together or had a sister like track. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's amazing. You guys did not know each other then, but came together
No.
later. So,
Yes. And we still have never actually met in person.
I know.
It's a
What?
crazy thing, but we're afraid like the world will collapse if we do, so it's kind of,
I'm not joking. I think it could.
it's this whole thing.
Wow.
So on that
Wow.
note,
Yeah.
Alyssa, what we need you to do is we need a little bit of your story. People need to hear, how did you get here? What have you been doing? And then also give us your top 10.
And as a Gallup coach, kind of talk about those top 10. So we need to make sure people are aware Alyssa is a Gallup coach, Gallup certified coach. So
She is, but she also is an internal coach. So she works for a company, for Gusto. She's done a few other things as well, which I want to make sure we hit on. So you're a really unique, beautiful little flower here in our podcast world because you kind of don't fit the mold, right? You're a coach, but you're internal. We've never worked with you as a client, but you do this work internally at a company, which I think is going to be a really exciting perspective for the listeners to hear. So tell us a little bit about you and give us your top 10.
I love it. Okay. Well, personally, you mentioned like you don't really fit the mold. And I would say that's a theme of my life. And I like share a disclaimer that I was homeschooled early on. And so if there's any awkward stuff, if I'm not making eye contact, things I just like, she was homeschooled. So like, let's just let that one slide by. But no, I was only until 5th grade, but the glory in being homeschooled, my mom actually worked shortly after me graduating from being homeschooled. But oddly enough, she worked for this little company called Gallup when I was a kid. And so I vividly remember going to like take your kid to work day. I had a picture at Gallup headquarters. I was like maybe an under the table Gallup employee, like stuffing survey envelopes that my mom would bring home sometimes. And so I don't know, Gallup might come back at me for some like unpaid taxes on that front. But yeah, I got introduced to Gallup from a very early age. And yeah, I grew up, as I mentioned, in Lincoln, Nebraska. My first official job was working in a cornfield at 13. And when you start in a cornfield as your first job, like it's only uphill from there, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, my professional career really I graduated from the cornfields, did a few other roles in between there, and graduating college, I wasn't really sure, what am I going to do when I grow up? And my husband, I got married when I was 21, as we do in the Midwest. Like, what else are we going to do at 21? Thankfully, still married and happy today, all the good things. But he and I are very polar opposites. So he's high, if we're talking Clifton Strengths language, high futuristic, high, thinking talents, high focus, achiever. And he's sitting over there in his investment banking job at 22, looking at me being like, what are you going to do when you graduate? What are you going to do when you grow up? And I'm like, great question. I'm like high adaptability over here. I'm living like one day at a time vibes. And he, I think I was going to the University of Utah at the time. That's where I graduated from. But he saw a flyer that must have come home in my backpack that said, there's a career fair, and being a good husband, he was like, hey, like maybe you should check out this career fair. And I'm hearing, well, fair, like, is there cotton candy? Yes.
Ooh, a funnel cake maybe, huh?
Absolutely. With extra powdered sugar. I will go to that. I promise I'm coming to your neighborhood here soon. But went to the career fair. Fast forward, there was only one company I recognized at the career fair, which had a bullseye as their logo. And I'm like, I love Target.
Yep.
Target away free gift cards over there. Yeah, I will wander to that booth. And luckily, they had a big sign behind them that said, we are looking for people that are fast, fun, and friendly. And I was like, whoa. I mean, are you speaking to my soul right now? I think that might be me. So yeah, I mean, when you think about fast, fun, and friendly, like I'm high woo. It's my number.
Yep, sure is.
I mean, I'm kind of fun, which I guess that could be woo too. But then the fast part is activator, which I have at number 3. And so I
Mhm.
felt like, you know what, even though I've maybe had an untraditional like path leading up to graduating from college, I was really able to lean into a role that immediately matched my innate talents and strengths. And I've been fortunate to have really lived in that space ever since. And I won't go into all the details of my career. I don't want to put anyone to sleep, but I spent several years with Target leading teams. My first leadership role, I was leading a team of almost 50 people, which at 22, like talk about dumpster fire, right? Like,
Right.
sorry for anyone that was on that team, but like, working through a lot of the kinks, right? Still am, to be honest with you. But then spent several years in that space, ended up doing campus recruiting for Target and traveling around to a bunch of different colleges. So that was my first dream job. And then my husband went back to school at Berkeley. So we moved to the Bay Area. And that's when I moved into the world of tech startups, which if anyone is listening and is familiar with kind of that scene, I know there's Silicon Prairie and, Silicon Grove in Utah, but the world of Silicon Valley, it is very fast paced, a lot of high change, a lot of exciting growth. And so I've been in the tech startup space, a lot of it rooted out of Silicon Valley and San Francisco for almost 12 years now. So been in that
Mhm.
space, leading recruiting teams and now having been in leadership development for the last 7 years. And here we are today.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. You touched on woo as your number 1. Can you tell us your top 10?
Yeah, for sure. So Woo is number 1. I
I'm
still claim
stunned.
it.
And by the way, stunned that woo is
Shocking.
number 1. Talking to you this morning, I
It's
mean,
it's
I,
almost like she's
I
got a
really
woo
need you to come out of
communication.
your shell today, Alyssa.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
little worried. So
It
yes,
should be. I mean, again, I put the homeschooling thing out there as like a disclaimer because if we become friends and you later hear
oh,
that,
we're
it's
friends now. We're
I don't
friends now.
trust you, you know. Okay, so woo is 1, communication is number 2. So high shock again, verbal prompt.
Oh yeah.
Activator is number 3. Competition is number 4, which I don't claim as much today. I took this assessment back in 2012, and 13 years later, I think it's fallen a little bit further down these days, but it's still there. Adaptability is 5. Belief is number 6. Command at number 7. Significance is at 8. Harmony at 9. And then a little bit of positivity is my cherry on top at number 10.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
there's more than a little there,
just a
but sure.
dash. Yeah, dash.
I'm getting
Positivity.
that as we go on today, but like I have been grasping for every ounce of positivity I can get these last few weeks. Like I want a petition to restart 2025 February 1st. So
Oh my god.
we'll get into that soon. But I'm like, you know what? Any bit of positivity, I'm like, yes, like I'm here for.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, can I ask you really? Let's jump right into that because you mentioned positivity as being in your top 10, and I hear it. It's hard not to assume you've got a lot of positivity coming.
Yeah.
But you did make an interesting statement, which I think our listeners would really be interested in, and that is I've been grasping for it. Like I've
Yeah.
been trying to get it these last couple of weeks.
Mhm.
As a high positivity person, what does that look? What led you there, and what does grasping for more positivity as a high positivity person feel like / look like?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. Yeah, I think I expect change, and I think a lot of times people are surprised when changes come our way, and I've tried to really prime myself and train myself like when these changes come up, we've seen this movie before, like
Mhm.
we can do it. These are the changes that we expect. And with adaptability at number 5, I usually actually love the opportunity and the challenge of like overcoming the change.
Yeah.
But to kind of just not go into my deepest, darkest life moments here and to keep you all with me. It's really fun. As Sarah mentioned, I work for a company called Gusto. I was with them for about 7 years, from a startup of about 100 people up until we have about 3,000 people today. And it's a people platform. We serve small businesses. I mentioned my husband is a co-founder of a company he is a customer. Like my high belief is and significance. I'm like, I believe in the work that Gusto does. We serve small businesses and it's good stuff.
Yes. You serve Collins Collective, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
We love you over here.
Okay.
So you'll be getting paid through Gusto with us, okay? This is not sponsored,
Good.
but it could be,
Good
okay? You can
God.
get
And, Alyssa, super short before you go on with that story. How does Gusto help small businesses? Because you don't help me, but it sounds like I need you. So
You might need us. Yeah. And this is not a sponsored post by any
No.
means.
no,
But
no.
Not yet.
so we are a people platform, and really at the core of what we do is, of course, payroll, benefits, yucky, sticky stuff with taxes to make sure that your business is compliant. We also give you tons of resources to help you onboard your employees, time tracking, really so that it frees up small business owners to do what they love doing, because most people
Gotcha.
don't start a small business to be like, I can't wait to sit down and do my, payroll by hand today. And so we
Yeah.
take away a lot of that burden and make it easy for you to do what you love doing and leave the rest up to us.
Oh, yeah. New client now. Absolutely new client. All right. I took you off of the positivity
Yeah,
train
sorry.
for a second.
No.
Go back. So go.
You're good. So anyway, I worked there for 7 years as a startup too. And then I took 2 years kind of as a hiatus to do some leadership coaching and worked for another small startup, training and coaching managers. And what's really fun is in the 2 years that I had stepped aside from Gusto, I stayed in really close contact with my former manager that I had at the company. And he is based out of Bellingham, Washington, so not in Denver where I am, but he was just continuing to be invested in my development, checking in on me. And last spring, he said, hey, like, would you be willing to coming back if we had the right role and all the right things were in place? And I was like, I mean, if it's for you, yeah, like, I'm good for you. I love Gunful. I love what we do, but also like, we talk a lot about leaders, and a lot of times people leave managers, not companies. And I think it also
Right.
goes in the direction too of like, people can join companies because the manager seems great, right?
Yes. Ooh, I don't think we say that enough. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. And I just want to sit on that for just one quick second. We always hear, especially in this space, we leave because of our manager or our boss, not necessarily the company. But exactly what you said, we'll also follow a good leader. So if you have good leaders, if you're bringing on talent who is invested in people, good people will follow them, right?
Yeah.
It's like
100%.
in strengths-based leadership, they talk about the 5 traits of a strong team, and one is people want to join a strong team, right? Good people follow that. They see it and they want to be a part of it. So I just think that's 100% you're right. Okay, so continue the story.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I think what spoke volumes to me was his investment in my development, even though he had no skin in the game. We weren't even working together. And so to see that, of course, made me think like, I want to go back and do this again. Like our time was too short. And so I rejoined Gusto. I'm calling it my second Gusto era because also a Swiftie, everything is an era to me.
Yes.
Also, like I think about life, sometimes people talk about like pre-COVID and post-COVID. I'm like, my life is like what was pre-Taylor Swift concert and post-Taylor
Yeah.
and like that's how I think about my life timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So with that,
You're right at
Taylor,
home here.
Taylor,
You're right
yeah,
at home here.
Taylor has come up again in our podcast. It's a
That's
common
right.
theme here, Alyssa. Thank you. Yes,
yeah,
go on.
it will continue to be if Sarah is curating any of the guests.
I realize.
Just so you know. But yeah, so I came back, about 6 months ago, and it's been glorious. It's been glorious. And I found out 2 weeks ago that my boss, who I love so much and I still love so much, he's leaving. He's leaving and he's leaving to go follow. And I can't even be mad at him because he's leaving to go follow a mutual former boss of ours who I also have a special place in my heart for, to go work for her. And it's one of those things where like this is part of the working world is people come and go, and we say goodbye to some and we're happy, like, yeah, we're over you anyway. But we also hope we say see you later in hopes that we run into these people professionally again. And so I got that news a couple weeks ago, and have really just been trying to recalculate and rejigger what this is going to look like. And so that's just been a big like professional I'm calling it like a professional storm, a professional like Hunger Games moment where I'm kind of like, okay, like fighting for what's next and what's going to be the right thing. So that's a little bit of like what's top of mind from a professional standpoint at the moment.
Yeah. Can
Yeah.
you build on that for a second more? How are you instilling positivity in the other people that have to now continue working with this amazing boss gone and yourself? Like, what does that look like for you when you're grasping to get
Yeah.
positivity, even though it's so natural and reoccurring for you?
I mean, something that I really try to think about and lean into a lot. I don't know if you all are familiar with Carol Dweck. I hope I'm saying her name
Mm-hmm.
correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, professor out of
Mindset.
Stanford and talks a lot about growth mindset. And one of the things that I love with growth mindset and that we talk a lot about with it is that most of the time, your biggest growth comes from doing hard things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those moments where I'm like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for people. This is a hard thing. Like, this person is like the glue to our team. He is like, you know, the band leader. Like, he is all of the things. And this is a moment where we have a choice to step up and lean into the hard and grow and come out on the other side bigger, better, stronger than we were before. Or we have a choice to make, which is to kind of like wallow in our sorrows and not rise to the occasion and then probably burn out, feel sad, and go somewhere else. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's kind of the crossroads that we're at. And I am trying to look for these step up opportunities, these jump ball opportunities that our team members have right now, and being able to share in some of that work that he was doing, but also allowing ourselves to rise to the occasion and stretch our own skills in ways that we haven't maybe had the chance to do so before.
Yeah.
Great.
I just want to think about this impact it's had on you. And I just want to validate that you, of course it is. You have 6 influencing themes, 3 relationship building, 1 executing, and it's belief, which, comes out in so many other ways too.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that like you come with so much energy, so much natural enthusiasm and drive, but you're also attached to people. And so like you said, you wanted to go back to Gusto, but part of it was you had maintained a connection with a person. So when you find out they're leaving, yes, of course, you're like happy and there's opportunity, but it's totally natural to sort of grieve that and then think like, ugh. And so I just want to take the space to say, like, of course, this is impacting you, right? And it sort of flips the world upside down.
Yeah.
And I think, like, you have that high adaptability. And I think we often say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I like change. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of times when people say they like change, what they mean is they like variety,
Yeah.
right? Because the truth is, true change, like big change like this,
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable. And I think it's okay to acknowledge, like, well, yeah, I like variety, but damn, this is uncomfortable right now because now there are a lot of unknowns. And I'm feeling it, and the people around me are feeling it. And positivity easily, yes, it is positive and it can bring good energy to people, but it only has so much like bounce back towards like negativity. And I think in change, and I don't know if this is happening at your organization, but people can get, because they're scared and they're nervous, there can be a lot of kind of like negative talk happening of like, oh, she said this. And especially if it's not as transparent as we want it to be, which often it's not just because it has to be that way, then there's a lot of side talking. And I think positivity can get swallowed up in that because like positivity needs other positivity kind of like blossom. And so
Yeah.
if it's constantly having this like storm on top of it, it kind of like cowers under the rock, like, okay, this is not my moment.
Yeah. No, it's such a good point. And I think, what's interesting, something I think about a lot is that brings perspective. And what is ironic in all of this, so this was the event that was last week, was finding out about this stuff with my boss. And I'm in like the pit of despair for a second there. And I'm like, my boss's boss, who's going to be now my boss, was like, how are you doing? And I'm like, is it dramatic to say that I'm heartbroken? Like, I am like full on, like, I'm in despair. But, now, and I won't get too deep into the personal stuff. But what's interesting, so I kind of have this like professional storm going on. And then I had a personal storm layered on top of that, which is like, I made it to Friday. I'm like, okay, that was such a hard professional week. And I got a call that my dad was in the ICU, and
Oh,
he lives on the East Coast. And I'm sitting here just honestly with so much gratitude. I got home yesterday, but I spent the entire week with him in the
Mm.
ICU, and he made it. He's alive, but it was a really close call. And, the moment that I had was my perspective shifted, because yes, the professional storm is still hard and these things still matter, but also life things are even bigger than
yeah.
that.
Oh,
And so
so true.
sometimes like the world has this way of pulling you out of that and saying, yeah, that really sucks that your boss is leaving. Like, this is really hard, but also like family, health, life, like this is bigger picture. This is big game stuff. And so I had a really big just perspective shift, and and actually like the positivity is coming back, because even though this has been like two of the hardest weeks of my personal and professional life, I'm sitting here being like, there is so much goodness
Yeah.
and where I'm at, even though this has been really.
Well, and I love that opportunity for that positivity to shine through that. And it's funny because just last night I was talking to a friend of mine about career trajectories,
Yeah.
and she said something about sometimes we have to let death be our advisor. And it's the same thing that you're talking about with your dad, right? Like our problems can seem so big and so strong, and like what we want to do for work and where we're going in our career and these decisions we're making. Sometimes you have to sort of step back and say, like, at the end of all of this,
Uh-huh.
what's really important,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And it's like, as terrible as it is that your dad was in the ICU and went through this, like, that's so tragic and actually heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The gift that it gives you of perspective.
Yeah. And that's truly where I'm at right now. And, just feeling so much gratitude. Like, even though I was like, really mad at my boss last week. I mean, which I wasn't, guess what happened when I found out that I was going to be gone this week? I was facilitating a workshop. I had all these different things that were on the calendar. And guess what happened? Poof. He took care of all of it.
Yes.
Like, you have nothing to worry about. Like, and
Go.
I just him, there was a couple other people too. And that's where, my like significance and my belief in what is good in the world and like all of this coming together is even in these really hard moments. And I think about it in hard moments, like my personal hard moment. I think about it in the hard moments with stuff like these awful wildfires in California. Like, I always try to tell myself and tell my kids, like, in those hard moments, look for the helpers, look for the
Yeah.
heroes, look for the people who are showing up and rising to the occasion. And so instead of focusing on the storm, I'm trying to focus on the helpers, on my strengths,
Mhm.
leaning into those to get through. And it's not always easy, but we got to keep going.
Mhm. Mhm.
So good. So good. And positivity is number 13 for me. You both have it in your top 10. Weird. Sarah's number 1. And when I'm listening to you, I just, I reflect on the fact that if my dad was in ICU and one of my favorite people on the planet was now going to leave me for another job, despite what it is, I might get on a podcast shortly thereafter and be like, hi guys. Oh no, it's great. I'll talk. Let's do it. And I'm listening to you and just being, that positivity is just shining through.
Mhm.
It's such a wonderful moment to hear you talk about and be upbeat about some of the things going on in your life and how that positivity affects you. And Sarah, again, kudos to you on positivity needs positivity to blossom sometimes. How can we make
Mhm.
that happen? And even me, it's not necessarily low for me. It's in the floor. It's 13. I tend to be pretty up, but I could see where that would pull me down.
Mhm.
And I could, sometimes I will wear my heart on my sleeve pretty hard. And
Mhm.
just amazing to me to hear those two stories and listen to the tone in your voice and have you go
Yeah.
through this and knowing that what that means for your family, what
Mhm.
that means for your other employees, you are, when you talked about, let's focus on the helpers. You're the helper
Mhm.
in that situation for those
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I think that woo communication positivity trio, it brings a level of energy that even in the darkest times can shine through. I always give people an example of like if I got a flat tire on my way to work, like I don't know what to do with that to be honest. I gotta call somebody, okay? I need
Well,
help. It would be
triple
very inconvenient. Like this is not a good day, okay? But when I got to work, I would be like, "Oh my god, you guys, guess what just happened to me? This is crazy. I'm so mad. I'm so mad right now."
the worst.
And the thing is, people are like, yeah, that is how it would be. And I'm like, but that is the combination of like positivity, communication, and woo. Even when I'm actually upset and mad and heartbroken, it's still coming off with a different frequency and vibe because there are people, if they got a flat tire, they would come in and they would be like, do not talk to me.
Yeah.
I need to go to my office and I need to decompress. And I'm not saying that's like right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what we see. So like even though it can be hard to articulate positivity, I think it's that. And that's what I heard when you were talking about your boss and you're saying like you were telling your boss's boss like I'm heartbroken. You really are, but you don't deliver it like my world is literally ending and I don't know what to do. You
Yeah.
deliver it with this like energy and there's still that lace of positivity in it. And I think Bill hit it on the head. People need to follow that always. People want to follow that always. But in those moments of change, unexpected change, whether personally or professionally, you're like a beacon of light for people because for the folks that don't have a natural talent in doing that, it's they're going to seek you out, which makes me also think as a coach, what do you do to protect yourself so you have time and space to deal with it? Because it could be easy to take care of everyone else and to
Yeah.
not take care of Alyssa during these times.
Yeah. No, it's a fair question. And, this is where I, sarcastically be like, I'll pour a glass of Sancerre at 4 p.m. and, it's just turn on a trashy show or something like that. But, it is tricky at work because, this is the horrible visual, but sometimes there are moments where people are kind of like, it's kind of gross, but from Nebraska, like we have ticks, right? Like we all know what it
Mm-hmm.
is, and it latches to you,
Unfortunately.
sucks the blood out of you. We already had a vampire reference today, I think, with Bill. So, anyways, really on the blood trip today. But you have to be careful of the people that are the ticks and that are really
Mm,
all the blood out of you. And we don't have an endless amount of positivity. There has to be certain moments where you're seeking those other people out. And it is interesting. I will put on my calendar. I have a couple different people that are my go-to people that are high
mhm.
positivity where when it fills my cup to connect with them. And people talk about create white space on your calendar to do deep thinking, to write down your thoughts. I'm putting a 30-minute block on my calendar every week to talk to somebody that refills my empty time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that because this is honoring your talents. What works for one person may not work for someone else because we are motivated differently. Because you lead with influencing themes and you've got those relationship building themes backing it up, you are refilled through people.
Yep.
So if you were to block the time off in your calendar for deep thinking, you'd probably sit there the whole time being like, "What? This
Mm-hmm.
is terrible. Like when is the time over so I can go talk to somebody?"
Yeah. Can I get to a Starbucks and talk to somebody for
Yeah.
10 minutes, right? And we've discussed this a little before too. We all have high woo, right? Number one on yours, Alyssa. I've made the claim before that I know the energy it's going to take to woo it up. I know that there's a lot of energy going to be invested if I'm going to go to a place where I'm going to meet 10, 15 people that I don't know. And you would naturally, instinctively think as a woo, that's what you want to do. You want to go meet, woo. And yes, if I walk into that environment, it's great. But sometimes getting me there is really difficult to do because I know how much energy I'm going to expend the whole time to do it.
Yeah.
And inevitably, if I ended up going anyway, I loved it. It was great. I met 3 people. They're now my best friends. I met all 10 and I made a lot of connections with other people as woos do. I made a lot of, hey, this is so-and-so and this works. And do you guys know each other? And that's, I'm curious. That's a little of that positivity too. There's an energy that is required to maintain that positivity. And to me, it sounds like you're saying, if I get together with somebody else that I know has that, we're fueling each other. I've stepped into the supercharger for Tesla, or the fuel, the fuel tank needs to get filled at Chevron, and here it is. That's how I'm going to do it. Would that be fair? Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment. And truthfully, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast today. Like, let me tell you what, I'm very behind on a lot of things at this moment in time, but this is my first meeting that I am having back from taking, almost a week off and hanging out with my dad at the hospital. And I knew, based on your personalities and being a faithful listener to your podcast, that this conversation was going to be a supercharger moment for me. And so that is why I wanted to opt into this despite everything else, is because I knew that about both of you. And so I'm like, there's actually this might be the perfect time to do this.
Right. Well, we are so honored to know that, and we are so grateful that you're taking the time to be with us. And I think what you point out is so great. And so I'm thinking something, and I want to ask you both if I'm right. In moments of high change, whether personally or professionally, it's going to happen. We're going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be a lot of unknowns. Do you think it's true that the key is leaning into who you are, like being really steady in who I am and what do I bring and what do I need? And then if it's your family or your colleagues, helping them do that, right? Which obviously we can do through Clifton Strengths. It's a great indicator. Like we were saying, the things that are going to fuel you are being with those positivity people, right? Being together, being with that fuels you up. And the more fueled up you can get in knowing who you are and what you need, the better you'll react and adjust as the change keeps coming at you. Does that feel right?
I'll give you my perception on it really quickly, and that is, Alyssa, I think you said it perfectly, which was find the helpers. That, as I mentioned, that energy that I'm going to expand on woo, I don't always want. But knowing myself really well, I know that when I get there, I'm going to be great, right? Or I'm going to be loving talking to people. So inevitably, it's my wife, or it's, we've talked about doing a karaoke in Denver as we get together for this event coming up. That is, I'm thinking, a lot of energy. That's good. But getting me there and relying on the helpers in my life is both parts of that equation. Knowing myself and knowing what I can lean into absolutely helps me be there. Knowing who I can encourage and help me do the other things and say, absolutely, yes, I empower those people around me, is the other part of the Clifton Strengths equation that I think both of them are critical. Knowing yourself, fantastic. But knowing others, by far and away, a bigger component to leaning into that. Alyssa, thoughts?
Only adds. I mean, I think both of you are spot on there. Here's the thing. When, like, sticking, personal and professional things that have happened recently, I think in a moment of a significant challenge, storm, change, the last thing you want to do is start reaching for those tools out in the shed that you don't know how to use, right? Like, when you are in a moment of hard things, you've got to reach for what's right there in your tool belt. Like, you know how to use the thing, and I see too many people start to get outside of their talent zone and think they need to suddenly be futuristic or suddenly be super strategic or whatever that might be, when in reality, the best way for you to probably solve this problem or work through this is by leaning into those things that come to you with ease, excellence, and enjoyment. That's your best bet to get through the hard thing, is to lean into that. And so I saw that happen, and I'm still in the midst, truth be told, of both of these
Of course.
parts, right? But I mean, as cheesy as it sounds to say it, I am trying to dig deep and lean into my strengths, focus on my strengths as opposed to focusing on the storm.
Yeah. Oh, I just think that's so powerful to think about. Lean on the things in your tool belt in these moments, those things that are just naturally easier for you because, yeah, you get into kind of this fight or flight mode depending on how significant the change is, right?
Mhm.
And we just are not functioning at 100% then.
Yeah,
And the unknown is scary. And so it's like, do the easy thing. I think of Elsa, do the next right thing, right? I think it's
absolutely.
actually Anna who says it. But when in those times, do the next right thing. And it's like, and that should be the thing that's easy for you, right?
Mhm.
That is going to come easy for you.
Yeah. And then tap on the people that have the talents that you don't, and I know again, we talk more about professional things, but since the personal stuff has been a lot of my hard thing the last week, like I'm sitting there in this hospital room and my dad lives in a remote part of the country. I'm basically the only person there with him the entire time. And I
Hmm.
recognize that in that moment, there are a lot of things that should be happening that we should be thinking ahead about that I'm not naturally futuristic. And so guess what
Right.
I'm doing? I'm texting my husband, hey, I want you to think like 3 weeks from now, think a week from now when I have to leave. Like, what are the things that we should be thinking about that I'm not thinking about?
Ooh, yeah.
I'm texting my sister, actually, and a good friend of mine who is high ideation. I'm like, can you think of things I'm not thinking about? Like, go through that process because I'm low in ideation and I'm just thinking about the practical. But what I'm using in my talents in that moment is I'm high activator. So I'm ready to go. I'm
Hmm.
ready to do things. And I just know that again, some of those talents like are not innate for me. And so I need to tap on the shoulder. I need to like who wants to be a millionaire style phone a friend on these things that I just naturally am not good at. And I do that at work too. I had someone on my team, he's really good with ideation and brainstorming. And I said, hey, like, I'm going to be real with you here. This is something I'd love you to lead the brainstorming on because truth be told, like I can be like, fine, like put me in a straitjacket and I'll ideate with you. But outside of that, like let your creative juices flow. Like that is a place that you shine. Let's let you shine there and I will ride the coattails and I will support you in that. But it's not the right thing to do to try to like put your superhero cape on and try to do all the things when
Yeah.
realistically your probably energy is being drained and you're probably not doing it very well anyway if you're doing
Yeah.
things that are outside of your top 15, in my
Oh,
opinion.
yeah. Really good. Really, really great thought. And interestingly, I cruised it really quick and saw it. You and I are really similar in our futuristic in context. Mine's 30. Mine's actually 36 if it went that low. For context, and my futuristic is right where yours is in that 17, 18 range. And I remind people frequently, I don't think that way and I don't think that way. I don't think forward or back. So how do I think? And it's easy for them. Oh, you think right here and you're
Hmm.
exhibiting that so well. And I'm thinking right now, I'm in this hospital room. I'm dealing with this and I can deal with this. And I was just coaching a client yesterday who has no futuristic as well. And he's pivoting his business in a big, big way. So we were doing some change management around what his business would look like. And I got him to look at the profiles of his employees and let's pick the futuristic and let's give them
Hmm.
exactly what you said, the list of things you need to do right now because you're looking at this and there are so many things in there that I see that you didn't put in there. But let's give it to your futuristic person and let's let them give you back a draft. And with that, you're going to come up with a couple of things from his. We need to start that now because they're looking at Q2 coming up, right? As we want all the changes in that point. And so brilliant from you from a coaching point of view to say, I'm enlisting the phone a friend. I need to pull
Yeah.
in someone to do that.
And the other thing I want to point out is I think sometimes when people are high achievers, high performers, which usually bleeds in from professional into personal as well, we think we have to do everything, right? So I love that you didn't think like I got to do this, right? You're developed enough the mindset, the growth mindset of like, hey, I have people I can lean on. And I just want to note that like people want to help us. I think so often in our culture, we think like to ask for help is a sign of weakness and no one wants to help me. But almost everyone I ever talk to, if someone literally says, "Hey, I need your help. Could you do this for me?" It's like a privilege. Like, "Oh my gosh, yes, please let me help you. I want to help you." Like, I feel so good to be able to be in service, especially in hard times. The personal stuff, even the professional stuff. It is an opportunity for people to show us how they care and how they love. And in a lot of ways, they want to and they don't know how. And then we're like isolated and we're alone and we feel like I have to do everything myself and we get all resentful. And so I just encourage people to hear this and really think in these moments of change, who can help? And not to think of it as like, oh God, I have to ask this person to help me and they're probably not going to want to, but like this is an opportunity for them. At work, look at this opportunity you've given someone to say, like, I want you to lead this. You have a talent in it. I see it. I recognize it. I want you to run with it. That is such a great leadership quality to be able to do that. In your personal life, to be able to say that, right? To your husband, to your sister, to say, you're good at this. Please take this and lead with it. They're probably like, thank God, I've been trying to help, but I'm not there. I don't know what to do. How do I support you? What a gift you've given them. And just to remember, like, to ask for help is not selfish. It's actually a gift to you and to them. And we need more people to be okay asking people to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. And very, very big on the ask. You're empowering the other people. You're acknowledging what their strengths are. How much do people blossom when you acknowledge what they do well through your eyes, through the ask? Hey, I know you're so good at this. You're much better than I am. Please help me with that. And that's just empowering to everyone, you and them. So, well, we've talked a lot about your positivity and how your competition has moved a bit over some time. As we do on this show, when do you think some of your strengths get in your way? When do you think a dumpster fire arises out of some strength that you think has been powerful for some period of time? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. I'm going to speak quietly because I know my husband's working not too far away. I'm going to sat in here and be like, I've got some words. Well, sidebar that is relevant. When I first became a Clifton Strengths coach, I think 6 or 7 years ago, of course you want to tell your friends about it, tell your family about it. And I convinced my husband, I was like, I need you to take this assessment and we're going to do the full 34. And before you show me your results, I want to guess like your bottom 5,000.
The bottom.
True story, which again, this is like a disclaimer, do not recommend moment, but like I hit the nail on the head with his number 34 and he has not recovered. Like at every moment in life, he'll be like, and he probably won't listen to this, adaptability. He'll always be like, you see how adaptable I'm being right now? It wasn't that adaptable of me.
Oh, he hasn't gotten over it at all. Oh, no. Wow.
And so, but I think that the key I always say to him and to even people that I coach is like, but the thing is the adaptability is the variety coming to you with ease, excellence, and enjoyment. Like everybody can adapt, but like, are you, anyway, that's my sidebar. Don't play that game. The dumpster fire combination, and there are a few, but I would say activator and adaptability, the combination of those together can be a little bit dicey because I'm excited to get things started and get on things. And
right. Yeah, like, yeah,
100%. And then I communicate it to people. So bring in a third talent too. I'm like telling the people about it. We're getting them excited. We're getting them on board. And then adaptability rears its nasty head in there and is like, but we're going to change the plan. Like I actually might change the plan as I'm talking about the plan. Right. And so I think, and when you're leading a team, you don't want them to feel frustrated because they started doing the work and then you have to readjust and that can be hard. And so that's one that I have to be really aware of, especially, in a leadership role versus as an individual contributor. It's like you're mainly hurting yourself.
Right. Ooh.
Yeah.
So
and
true.
then, the woo, as both of you know, as my fellow woo.
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but I feel a little bad sometimes because, woo, you make friends fast. And like, I'm not trying to say that in a way as like, I'm the most popular girl in school. or something, but you make quick connections and it comes from a genuine place. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
naturally how we show up. And what can happen is people think that you're maybe closer than you are.
Mm-hmm.
And as a now like working mom with 3 kids and I struggle to figure out how to say no to some social commitments. And my husband is like, wait, you have like book club tonight and like you have a birthday club and then you've got like a wine night on the calendar. And I say yes. I want to say yes to everything. And then there's a
Mm-hmm.
happy hour. And it pains me to say no to people because like it is deep FOMO, but it's kind of being able to figure out how to protect those personal boundaries, not hurt feelings or make it seem like you were disingenuous in your connection with them,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but trying to manage it.
Yeah, and I really hear you like living through your values there, right? Because it's like when you're young, being a woo when you're in your 20s,
Yeah.
like it's
It's
so
great.
easy,
Oh, I loved
You're
it.
the
Yeah.
life of the party. Like, yes, let's go, let's do it. Especially, I imagine, Alyssa, with your adaptability and your activator, that
Yeah.
woo, yes, the yeses are easy. Like, take me anywhere, I will make it fun.
Yes.
And then you get this husband, and then you get these children,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to be a good present mother.
Huh?
And so these things come in, and it's like, okay, yes, I want to do it, and I will have so much fun. But now I have this value shift, right? I cannot be gone all the time. And that's why it's so important to know your values. Like, what is most important in this moment? Because even though it would be an easy yes to go to all these things, the consequences are not worth it because it's not necessarily the priority I want.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't know if you can tell. I'm just speaking from
Oh,
experience.
Oh, I heard it. Oh, I hear it. And I will also tell you that, tying back to the question you asked me in the beginning of this, as a woo in my early 20s, it was great meeting people. But where it
Uh-huh.
got in my way frequently was I would build a friendship with somebody and then they would say, hey, I want to bring along so and so and so and so to something we're doing. And I'm like, no, yeah, I wooed with you. You and I are tight,
No.
right? And
That
yeah,
is your relator,
it
okay? I'm
is.
gonna call you out right
It
there.
is.
That
But
is
the woo,
not because that is not one I have,
but
okay?
the woo,
That would
but
not
the
happen to
woo
me.
got me there, right? It got me
Right.
in, and by the way, and then you're right. My relator's like, step away. No,
Right, right, right.
But then now we're all hanging out together. Now I'm like, oh, we're all great. This is
Yeah.
fantastic. So the woo helped again in there, and you're right. There's a combination of them there, but the woo definitely steps in and it builds that. And I think of those 20s again, and my woo was great. It allowed me to do a lot of things that I wouldn't have normally stepped into and done. And yeah, I
Mhm.
absolutely love that we're all woo masters here on the pod today, and talking about what that looks like. That's
Yeah.
pretty fun.
And I have to say, like, as much as it would be so fun to have y'all as my like neighbors, it would be
Oh,
problematic because we live in an area, it's like a golf cart community. So everybody
Uh-huh.
bops around on their little golf carts. Nobody has fences. And so, there are happy hours happening. Like people are sitting on their porch, come have a glass of wine, and you're like, I could be doing that. Like that could be a full-time
Yeah.
job for me,
oh yeah,
Right.
hopping around to that stuff. And at the end of the day, it's like, no, like values are family, values are doing great at work. I have to
Mhm.
stay grounded in that
yeah,
and
yeah,
not get blown with the wind.
sure,
Yes. Because it can be easy to do as a woo. Like, I just think it's like that mature woo uses it strategically.
yeah,
The immature woo, which I think you have to grow through when you're young. I mean, that's how you become a party girl. You
yeah.
just easy.
That's
Make
it.
friends everywhere.
And
Okay, speaking of party
I've
girls.
joked about this before, but woo stands for winning others over. In my world, it usually stands for wife objects often. And that is, if I'm in the golf community, we're stopping, I'm having drinks. She's like, we got to go, So, yep, I get it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I get it.
Your wife and my husband would console each other.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they would understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
So speaking of wooing it up and all the parties, here's your special question, Alyssa. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
If your strengths were a band, what would be the name of the group and what is their debut album?
There's only one obvious band name
Oh,
in my mind. And it's not that like again, low ideation here, people. So like we are digging.
Uh-huh.
Um, we're just a group called the Fast Friends. We're fast friends.
Wow. Wow.
Ooh.
The Fast Friends. Debut album. Debut album title. What is it?
You know, it's going to be something that is relevant to me and may not strike a chord with the rest of the people
Good.
who follow the Fast Friends, but Chasing Northern Lights is our debut album.
Ooh.
And it's because I do have a Northern Lights chasing like friends test that I have for people. And this is in real life because I have chased the Northern Lights a couple times in the last year. And the day that, like, I track when the Northern Lights are coming, and you never really know, but you live on the edge of your seat to figure out, can we chase them? And the last time they were around a couple months ago, I put it out there to some friends. I was like, hey, I'm going to go looking for these Northern Lights tonight. Like, who's it? This is like it. And there were a couple takers and a couple people that were like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, that was the test. And you're either
Yeah.
in or you're out. And the people that said yes, like, you're my people. And guess what? We chased those Northern Lights.
Oh
We
my
got
gosh.
Slurpees that night. Like, it was everything I dreamed it to be. And it's like, anyway, so there you go.
The woo activator right there. Chase. If you're
Mhm.
in, you're in. If you know, you know. And if you're not, we're going.
Yeah.
We're done. So,
Wildly. Yes.
Oh, okay. So I
good.
have one last question I just thought of, and I
Yeah.
need you to give us your honest answer. You are our first internal coach that's been a guest on our podcast. For anyone who's listening that is also an internal coach at an organization, any tips or words of wisdom for them?
I mean, I think it's really important to figure out who are your other, strengths enthusiasts internally at your company, because the reality of the situation, you may be the only Clifton strengths coach. There's one other coach at my company. But there's a lot of other team leaders, managers, individuals who are kind of like closet strengths enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to start to find them and kind of create your own little pod of enthusiasts to bounce ideas around with, to re-energize, to influence and get other people on board. And so just keep an eye out for those people and do what you can to help that flourish, to really get other people's buy-in, because yeah, it can be tricky. And like the Clifton Strengths assessment prices keep going up, and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how do we really figure out what the value is and how to really explain to the business that this is not just a fluffy personality test, but it is a strategic tool that can help you personally help your team grow and thrive. And so, find those people and make a little powerhouse out of it.
Oh,
Wow.
really good. Really good. So
100%.
before we sign off, can you tell people how to get a hold of you? We're going to put it up on our website as well, but what's the best way to get a hold of Alyssa if you had a question for her, something about Gusto, something about what you're doing and how you do it, maybe how an internal coach works?
Yeah, I love that. So honestly, the best way to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn. And that's where, I kind of connect with a lot of people, especially related to personal or professional topics, I should say, sometimes personal. So yeah, Alyssa Thelen, Thelen on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Alyssa Thelen at Gusto.
Woo.
So wow. But yeah, that's probably the best place to connect with me there. If you went and found my socials, you'd be like, yep, I mean, this tracks. Like, Taylor Swift, it's Northern Lights, like
Yes.
all of the content that like Sarah and I might be into, but your very professional, listeners would be like, yeah, that's not the content I'm looking for. Like, I'll just ask my question over LinkedIn and go from there.
That's
Perfect.
Right.
And if you're
Right.
looking for that information, you're looking for the LinkedIn, it's on our website attached to the podcast. So, well, with that, Alyssa, we love having you on. Thank you so much for being our first truly embedded coach. I was embedded when I first started with Gallup, and spent about 2 years as an embedded coach. And I know how difficult it can be to work in that tighter environment without expanding on. So kudos to you. That can be difficult.
No, thank you for that. And I'll tell you, this is real. Like, you listening to your podcast is kind of my version of like listening to pump up music before like a
Oh.
basketball game. So like before I facilitate some strengths workshops, I actually love listening and getting in the strengths mindset by listening to your podcast. And even though like you don't work with me internally, I kind of feel like you're my extended network and my people. And so it's been really fun to hear your voices and your wisdom through strength. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Well, we work together now. I'm only a couple hours out of Denver. Easy flight to get in, come and work, and
I mean, I'm still waiting for that karaoke invite that you keep talking and y'all keep in Denver. I'm like,
I've told
what is
you
this
beginning of
club?
June. Beginning of June.
Do you not? You don't go to the Charlotte Blair event?
Yet, but I mean, tempts me with an invitation, and there's
That's right. That's
right.
I love it. I think
there's some professional development dollars that could be thrown at
Clearly.
this, you know?
It's given all the changes and the step up in the work.
Exactly.
I think
that embedded coach life comes with some PDs, you know?
Given that Charlotte's event is in the Denver area, I mean, come on. We'll sneak you in the back. Even if you don't jump in, we're sneaking you in. So
I can't wait.
It's so good.
Alyssa, thank you so much for being on our pod today and everything you had to offer. It's always a pleasure. And I hope someday we get to blow up the world by meeting in real life.
I can't wait. I'm ready for it. Buckle up.
We're going to do it. It'll be perfect. So perfect. Thank you, Alyssa. We will talk to our arsonists on the next episode. Thank you for listening, and we will talk soon.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dippel, founder of Bill Dippel Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com, follow her on Instagram at sarahcoachcollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at billdippel.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at Bill Dippel Coach, or email him at bill@billdippel.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.